to our being recorded first P&C insurance industry meeting. I'm going to be brief because we've got a lot of really great information to go over today, but want to just take an opportunity to say thank you for being here and to let you know about a little bit about why we're doing this. And it's because we've got lots of things to talk about, and we care very deeply about what you and all of our stakeholders think about all of the different things that we're involved in, we're thinking of, we're planning, or that we're doing. So this is going to be the first of many opportunities for us to get together and from you to hear directly from us about activities that we're working on or that we're planning, how we're thinking about certain issues, and as importantly, for us to hear from you as well about what you think about these different activities and the things that we're doing. Now, I recognize today is going to be a little different from that. It's a webinar format, so there won't really, unfortunately, be an opportunity for a back and forth and a dialogue. I recognize that, and the reason for that is we've got a lot that we want to present today, a lot of information, a lot of background material, but it's not going to be the last time we're going to get to talk about this. So we've got 3 topics today. We're going to talk about P&C data reporting, talk about our market conduct exam program, and then finally our product standard update. So you're going to hear from staff about each of these issues. We've got a slide deck to go through as well. And then we want to give you time to think about this, gather feedback internally as much as you might need. And then we're going to get back together in 3 separate meetings. We'll be able to have a full and open dialogue about all of those 3 issues. Looking forward, in addition to these 3 topics, we're looking to start having regular quarterly P&C focused sessions such as this. So there's always things for us to talk about. We'd also be very interested to hear from you about topics and issues you would like to discuss as well. So please think about that and reach out to me or Brian or anyone on the team with any ideas about future topics or issues that you'd like to discuss at our new quarterly P&C sessions. So with that, if anyone, I guess with that, I will just turn it over to Brian, our P&C regulation compliance manager, to get the real stuff going. So Brian, over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Fordham, and I am the Property and Casualty Program Manager here at DFR. Again, there are 3 areas that we're going to cover today. The first is data reporting and data calls, and that's going to be led by our data team leader, Spencer Peacock. Then we're going to talk about market conduct examination program, and that's going to be led by Sandra Emanuel and Anna Pace. And then we're going to have the updated P&C product standards and checklists that will be presented by Jan Vitus. And then lastly, I'll give you some information about some updated rules and bulletins. And I want to reiterate one of the things that Andrew said is that at each of the areas, the topical areas that we'll be discussing today, there'll be a follow-up meeting date and time, as well as an email address where you can forward your feedback and comments. And so please look out for that. And with that, I'll hand the presentation over to Spencer. Spencer?
Thank you, Brian. Hi, everyone. My name is Spencer Peacock. I am the data analyst here at DFR. My team and I, we work with various financial industries that DFR regulates, one of those being the property and casualty industry. One of our goals with these meetings is to proactively share and collate regarding upcoming projects that we are working on, both routine reporting as well as data calls. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about today is a new project that we've started. It's regarding the P&C routine reporting requirement. This really started with DFR seeing a need for more granular information about the property and casualty insurance market. Currently, we're working internally to identify information that will be required. The intent is not to be overly detailed in what's being reported. And where possible, we want to align the market conduct annual statements for the lines of business that are already in place for that reporting. So you'd see some very similar language as far as definitions, what we're asking for. So our plan for this, recognizing the P&C industry is very broad, there's a lot going on here. We wanted to focus on scaling this up, meaning, our first year, we're going to start with a small number of companies that will be asked to report, and we'll focus on just a few lines of business. The idea will be to be very collaborative, one-on-one with these companies, seek feedback, consider feedback, and implement that as we get into further reporting. For the first year or two, this is really going to be based reporting. We'll provide a split. We'll make sure to provide ample directions, definitions, all the guidance that you'll need to do this. And as has been stated, we're going to have further meetings, and at the upcoming data reporting meeting is where we'll try and provide more specifics regarding what information would be required to be reported. As we get further into this, we'll continue to expand who's going to be reporting, as well as the lines of business that will be reported. At some point in the future, hopefully within 3 years, we will migrate this from Excel-based reporting to a reporting portal where files are submitted and uploaded directly to a database. And next slide. Okay. One thing we did want to discuss was a data call that we just issued and was due. So as stated, one of our goals with these meetings is to be proactive and provide information on data calls. With that in mind, we wanted to discuss one that we just performed regarding the prescribed fire coverage. This is related to House Bill 2571. We, as a division, are required to submit a report to our legislature. This data call, the information we've collected, will help us fulfill that obligation. As you all, I'm sure, are already aware, this call was issued on October 26th. It had a due date of November 5th. We really appreciate the many responses we received. It was sent to all P&C companies licensed in the state of Oregon. That's a very broad audience, and we recognize there may be communication issues. We're working on making sure we have companies contacted with the NAIC. For that reason, we were trying real hard to conduct outreach. We're trying to make sure we reach out to companies that may missed one company in a group, and we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to report as well. And my last item is of an update call. This one is related to Oregon House Bill 3272. You'll hear more about this bill further in this presentation. I just wanted to share some basics regarding the upcoming call. It's very simple in nature. It's going to be a series of yes/no questions with some basic additional information being requested. As far as who will be required to report, this will be companies with written premium in Oregon under the homeowners line of business for the 2020 calendar year. And just like we did with the prescribed fires data call, a group can submit a single report. We would just ask that it includes a record for each company. And the anticipated issuing date for that data call is November 5th. Sorry, I apologize, November 15th. If you have any questions or feedback, please submit them to our DFR data team general inbox. The email address there is dfr.datateam@dcbs.oregon.gov. Our next meeting will be held on December 8th at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And with that, I will pass this off to my colleagues, Anna and Sandy, who will talk about our market conduct examination program. Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anna Pace, and I am a member of the Market Conduct Examination Program. You will find my colleague, Sandra Emanuel, in my information on the right side of the slide in case you have any questions or you wish to follow up on anything after today. I'm going to explain you a little bit about our roles as insurance examiners. Sandra and I review concerns that are brought up to our attention by the consumer advocacy, the market analysis sections within the division. In addition, of course, we also verify compliance with Oregon statutes and laws. Now I'm going to turn it over to Sandra so that she can explain the different types of examinations.
Thank you, Anna. Good afternoon. I'm Sandra Emanuel, and as Anna said, I will be reviewing with you the types of examinations we will conduct and also a brief explanation of the exam process. Okay, the Market Conduct Exam Program Standards link. Oh, sorry, we're not there yet. Back one. The Market Conduct Exam link will be available at our next meeting on December 6th. So some types of the exams, of market conduct exams that we will be conducting are target exams, limited scope exams, which include re-exams, compliance examinations, desk examinations, and comprehensive examinations. Next, I would like to briefly explain the focus of each potential examination. Target examinations will focus on specific lines of business or practice to a particular area of concern. Limited scope examinations focus is following up on an issue found in a previous examination. Specifically, re-examinations and compliance examinations verify a company has initiated the prior recommended corrective actions. Desk examinations follow up on a previous examination area of concern. Comprehensive examinations are a full scope examination that generally involves a review of all the company's business practices. Next is the general process of a market conduct examination as follows. First, we send the insurer an examination or a call letter, followed by a contact with your coordinator and delivery of the handbook. Next, the pre-examination conference, followed by the exam itself. And after the exam, we will have a wrap-up conference with your coordinator, finalize and publish the report. Now back to Anna to illustrate an example of a limited scope examination.
Thank you, Sandra. Now that we have actually introduced the market conduct exam team and have explained the types of examinations that our program may be conducting, I would actually take the opportunity of illustrating an example of a limited scope exam. So let's go ahead and take the wildfires of 2020 as an example. As a result, the program may look at several concerns relating to policies cancellation and or changes in premiums. First, let's take a look at what the division may look into in order to review if policies were canceled as a result of claims that were made. In order to do so, we would actually be evaluating Oregon General Standard for Underwriting and Rating, number 6 and number 8. The next slide, I'm sorry. Thank you. Second, the division may want to look at concerns relative to changes in premiums to the wildfires by zip code. More specifically, by using General Oregon Standard number 1, same which refers to the rates charged for the policy coverage in accordance with the filed rates, if applicable, or the regulated entity's rating plan. And lastly, Oregon General Standard for policyholder number 1, same which actually talks about premiums and billing notices that were sent out with adequate amount of advance notice. The market conduct thanks you and would like to invite you for follow-up for our meeting on December 6th at 11 a.m. of Pacific Standard Time. On this note, we would like to invite you to send your initial feedback or questions to the email addresses reflected in the slide. And with that, I am now going to introduce Jan Vitus so that she can talk to you about the updates to the property and casualty product standards. Thank you.
Jan, it sounds like you don't have any audio.
Why don't we keep going on? And Jan, why don't you work on your audio and you can jump in when you have an opportunity. All right. So can we go to the next slide? So the products and standards that have been currently being worked on, we have broken up into multiple groups, and the groupings are listed here. Many of these standards we are in the process of updating, and we will be posting to the website shortly. In the first group, you can see that we've got some of the general motor vehicle rules and rates, forms, the monoline package, monoline and package property, personal liability, and commercial lines liability. And then in the second group, we have got the service contract and VPP reimbursement insurance, stop loss, excess loss, the vehicle rental company, auto insurance, pet insurance, legal expense and service contract obligors, and vehicle protection product warrantors, collateral protection, residual value, and vendor interest updates, and then lastly, the updates to gap insurance. The third group, which will be the last group that we'll be working on, are more general and address boiler and machinery and mechanical breakdown, and mortgage insurance, surety and fidelity, title and travel, involuntary unemployment and family leave, exclusive of the paid family leave program, credit default, credit, personal property, and various workers' compensation standards. Lastly, we'll be updating the rating organization loss costs and reference filing checklists. Jan, it sounds like you have audio again. Would you like to take over?
Do I have audio?
Yes, you do.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Okay. We are getting in the process now of posting up 3 of the product standards checklists that have actually been completed. It's 440-3610, which is commercial and personal liability, 440-3618, which is monoline and package property, and 440-2445, which is for stop loss, which is a unique standalone product type. Several of the other product standards that are related to property and liability should follow shortly because they are very similar. And then motor vehicle is in the process of being worked on, and we want to get that one up because there's so much filing activity around that specific subject. Next screen, please. Thank you. Okay, of the subjects that we intend to address in the product standards updating, one of the primary ones is House Bill 3272, which is the one dealing with additional living expense and the new amount of dates that an insurance company has to allow the policyholder for repair and replacement. And there is a brand new bulletin that just got posted. It's DFR 2021-5, And there's a lot of very specific details in that bulletin, so you'll want to be sure and go in and take a look at that. Next slide, please. Arbitration, there's a brand new bulletin, or fairly new bulletin, DFR 2021-1. It actually applies to both arbitration and appraisal. And so you'll see the references in the product standards are changed from more general Oregon law to reference this bulletin because it covers everything. It's essentially the same thing. Mutual agreement of the parties at the time of the dispute occur in Oregon and according to Oregon law. And the insurance company cannot deny the claimant's right to a jury trial because Oregon law does not allow that. However, you can exclude them from doing a class action lawsuit. Next screen, please. We have new bulletin on controlled substance and marijuana, DFR 2021-4. And there's a reference to that within the product standards, and you'll see that several of the different standards are going to contain that. So if you're interested in that language in particular, when you go in and look at those new product standards checklists for property and liability as soon as they get posted, hopefully today, you'll see how that language is going to read. Criminal acts exclusions are addressed, intentional acts are addressed, and the bulletin has not yet been finalized on the intentional acts, however, is very close and is being done, and I'm sure that Brian will address that when he has his presentation in a couple of minutes. The motor vehicle step-down limits, that is a motor vehicle subject only. There is a new bulletin, DFR 2021-2, and so there will be actual language within the motor vehicle product standards describing the step-down limits and how that works. Next slide, please. Promotional offerings and rebating, we only had a very small piece about promotional offerings, and there has been a statutory change. ORS 746.045 paren 3 addresses certain kinds of activities, and as long as the value of the gift isn't more than $100 per person per year, then it doesn't even need to be filed. If it's more than that, or it has to do with a premium reduction because of a reduced commission, those things have to be filed, and something has to be included in the form rate rule filing to address that topic. Next slide, please. We've always asked insurers to tell us how the product's going to be sold, and we've added a piece into the product standards on this topic specifically because we keep having to write on it. And so we want insurers to understand we need a thorough explanation of what's going to go on with this product so that we understand all elements of it. It's why Oregon prefers to see combined filings of forms, rates, and rules rather than having the rates and rules split off from the forms, because we want to be able to see the bigger picture. There's many new product types out there. The insurtechs are quite active. There's a lot of new and innovative products being designed for the marketplace because it's changed so much. And so it's really critical for us to be able to do a thorough filing, to have every element of what's going on right in front of us. Another issue that we're addressing is the start and end of the policy term. We keep seeing filings come through, mostly on the health side, but some of the other products too are saying that coverage is going to end at 11:59 p.m. But then there's a renewal term that starts at 12:01 a.m. You have an automatic lapse of coverage. And yeah, it's probably unlikely there will be a claim during that 2-minute period of time. However, if there was, there'd be a problem for that policyholder. So we think it's just more logical to simply say 12:01 a.m., 12:01 a.m. Next subject, or next slide. Proof of loss, we're simply confirming the 90-day proof of loss if there's property coverage. And that's not anything new, but we want to be sure that we have that adequately addressed in any property standard or product standards that address the property exposure. Suit against us, the statute says 24 months, but we also accept 2 years in the policy forms, and we do get a variety when we get filings. For uninsured, underinsured motorists, we're going to address any of the changes that have occurred with that, and in particular, we have DFR 2021-2, which is a new bulletin, and we want you to be aware of that as well. For personal injury protection, we will address anything that's occurred since 2015, and in bulletins also, there is a House Bill 2393 from the 2021 session, and we will address that in the motor vehicle checklist as well. Next slide, please. This is a little bit more clarification on House Bill 2393. It has to do with transportation network companies and taxi risks. And basically it says that they're going to be having to provide the auto personal injury protection. And we will detail that out so that it's very clear to you those circumstances under which it does qualify and those when it doesn't, and that'll be in the motor vehicle checklist 440-3615, and it's a work in progress at the moment. Next slide, please. Automobile minimum financial responsibility. We've had some issues come up. There was a statutory error that was made a long time ago, and it showed for ORS 806.070 that the limits are 25, 50, and 20. But in ORS 806.075, for anyone convicted of driving under the influence, the limits are 25, or excuse me, 50, 100, and we want it to be 20,000 PD. And we checked with the Department of Motor Vehicles, and they agreed that they never intended for there to be an inconsistency, and that nobody's to blame. It just happened. The statute says 10,000 PD, and we are saying no, you must use 20,000 PD, and we are going to put that in those terms in the motor vehicle product standards to eliminate the confusion. And we've been told by our AG that if it's in the product standards, that yes, that's enough without the statute having been revised. At some point it will be, but it just hasn't been currently. Next slide, please. Terrorism has never been addressed in any way other than through a bulletin, and when the 2019 Terrorism Risk Insurance Act reauthorization was done, we issued an e-notify because the changes were so minor. So we decided the best thing to do on a go forward is to address this subject in every one of the product standards. So you will find something on terrorism in every one of them. So in 440-3610 and 440-3618 that are going to be posted up here, you're going to see exactly how we've addressed that. It didn't change anything about how we've addressed it all these years. It's just putting it in the product standards to make it more clear and upfront for the industry, and hopefully make it easier for you as you're making filings. Rating models, this is a rate and rule issue, and we're going to have a new section to talk about rating models, and it will provide some information to industry as far as what we expect in terms of filing predictive models and the use of those within rating plans. This is mostly like homeowners and auto. However, there are predictive models for a lot of things now, so it may even be addressed in some of the other product standards. Next slide, please. Okay, the property and casualty follow-up meeting is scheduled for December the 1st at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, If you have any kind of feedback or questions between now and then, please feel free to send me an email at jan.vitus@dcbs.oregon.gov, and I will respond to your concerns or questions now. But otherwise, we hope to see you December the 1st at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, when we'll have a Q&A for industry as a follow-up to this meeting. I appreciate your attention, and I'm going to go ahead and hand the meeting over to Brian Fordham, who will direct you further. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Now I'd like to share some information about some rules and bulletins which may impact your operations. On November 22nd, there will be a public hearing to discuss the credit for reinsurance rule. This rule specifies conditions under which an assuming insurer may receive credit as an asset or a reduction in liability for reinsurance ceded by a ceding insurer. Written comments to DFR about this rule need to be received by November 29th by 5 p.m. Listed on this slide is the call-in information, as well as the email address where you can submit your comments. Next, I'd like to talk to you about the annual statement blanks. This rule is an update to the annual and quarterly statement blanks, instructions, valuation manuals used for insurer reporting. And lastly, the NCCI statistical plan changes. This rule provides a way to identify claims through code changes resulting from adverse vaccine reactions via an update to the NCCI stat plan for workers' compensation and employer liability insurance. On October 26th, the division issued Bulletin 2021-5. This bulletin clarifies the division's expectation for P&C insurers and provides guidance on expediting claims handling for Oregon policyholders affected by wildfires. The division will be issuing a bulletin that outlines expectations for auto rates and filings for private passenger auto insurance, considering the changes to consumer driving patterns because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And also, the division will be issuing a bulletin that provides guidance about language to be used in intentional acts exclusions. This bulletin will provide guidance requiring that policy language be clear and not vague, and not use vague terms that may mislead policyholders to thinking that they have different coverage than what they expected. I know we've covered a lot of information today on multiple topics. I also am fully aware that the audio didn't work on all of our presentations. We will be making the recording available through a link on our website. My team is open to your feedback and comments. This slide contains the information about the follow-up meeting dates and times, and also the email addresses where you can send your comments. We will use the information that you provided at the time of registration for today's meeting to send the follow-up meeting for the virtual invitation. You will be able to share and pass that virtual invitation on to others if appropriate. I hope today's presentation was informative to you. I'd like to thank you for your time and attention, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.